Hey guys, so today in this episode, we are going to talk about how to manage your time and energy to decrease stress in your life and help you heal your gut and help your digestion heal. So I have another video I'm going to link below that talks about stress and the gut and all the ways that ways to minimize stress, but also the ways that your gut impacts your stress impacts your gut functioning. So there's multiple ways that it does that. It damages the good bacteria in the gut, making space for bad bacteria to take over. It can damage the gut lining. So if you're just in a place where you're in a heightened state all the time and you're not able to come in and out of that rest and digest versus the fight and flight state. So you don't want to be in a heightened, aroused, stress state all the time, or even most of the time. We want to be able to come in and out of that easily. And what happens is when we stay in that heightened state all the time, there's a lot of impact on our vagus nerve, which is the major highway between the gut and the brain. So when that major highway becomes dysfunctional, it really impacts our ability to digest our food and causes all kinds of another like cascade of events and cascade of dysfunction within our body. So it's really important to dial in and work on minimizing your stress and managing the stress that's unavoidable. The other thing that happens is damage to the gut lining, and stress directly impacts that as well. And when the gut lining is damaged, basically you get this leakage of things coming through that barrier that aren't supposed to be in the bloodstream but making it into the bloodstream, and that can wreak havoc on all kinds of things. So that's just kind of like a quick few things that happen with gut. There's a lot with stress and how it impacts the gut. There's a lot going on with that, and like I said, stress is a super important thing to address. So one of the ways we can address it is by looking at how do we manage our time and energy in a way that's supportive of our body, that's in alignment with ourselves, and that can really help us to have more energy, less stress, which ultimately will lead to healing on a lot of levels. So we'll talk a little bit about why it's important to spend time managing, like planning and organizing and managing these things, and why it's so worth it. And we'll also talk about how scheduling and planning and routines and things like that can help you to just help you to live more the way that you want to live. It helps you focus and helps you know where you're going to spend your time and where you're going to spend your energy. And of course, there's things that come up that are going to demand our time and energy. And, we just plan for that as much as possible. But hopefully when you have a lot of the things in your life kind of organized and you feel like you have a good hold on your time management, then when something comes up, you have some reserves as well. Reserve energy to deal with it, and just kind of building into our schedules as much as we can time to handle those unforeseen things. So we'll talk a little bit about first why take the time. So when you have an outline for your day and you know where you're going to be spending your time, you allocate a certain amount of time to certain things, and all of this comes with practice, of course. It decreases the unknown. It decreases the stress that you may spend, or the time and the energy that you put into figuring out what you're going to do next. You don't sit down at your desk and say, oh, okay, what am I going to do? You have an outline of what you're going to do. So you go straight to that. You accomplish the thing that you need to do the most. Maybe you give yourself a time limit or not, but it really cuts down on the time spent around the indecision and lack of clarity for what to do, because you've already done that in advance. So that's a big benefit. And by doing this, you also increase your productivity and your efficiency with the things that you're doing dramatically. So you're able to focus your time and energy on a certain thing and then move on to the next thing and move on to the next thing. And, you know, every day doesn't go like that, obviously, but having this basic outline can really help you to be more productive and more efficient throughout your day. You're going to reserve your energy for the things that are priority for you, because hopefully those are the things that make it onto your schedule and into your planning, into your calendar, you know, however it is that you use, however it is that you organize all of this. So when it's on your calendar, you can factor in things like self-care, time with your kids, time with your husband or your partner. You know, you can factor in all the different things that are important to you and put it on your schedule. And when it's there, you're so much more likely to do it. You are way less likely to take time for self-care if you don't have it scheduled in than if you do. And, you know, that piece alone will decrease stress so much in your life, having that self-care in addition to having it on your calendar. Okay, so let's talk about some tools for doing this that might be helpful for you, because I know for me, when I started thinking about time management, I was just like, oh, I don't want to be on that strict of a routine or that strict of a schedule. And it's actually, I actually really crave it now. I want to know what's going to happen next. I want to know how much time I have for different things, and I want to know what my day looks like. And so just being able to see what my day looks like allows me to kind of focus on those things that I know need to get done. And then if I get something extra done, great. Like I'm have a history of being a taskmaster. I really like to go through and check things off my list. That's very satisfying for me. But this breaks it down into what I think will be manageable for that day. And so, scheduling and planning and having that outline is so important. So that's the first thing, is just to take the time to schedule and plan. So schedule in your planning time. And what that means is maybe once a week you sit down and you look at what you have to do that week, what you need to accomplish, and then you physically put it in your calendar, put in the things that are the biggest priorities for you first. Actually, first I want you to put in the things that are already scheduled at a certain time. So whatever you have that you have to be doing at a certain time, like say you have a meeting at 10, you have a lunch date that's already set up and you're going to do that at noon. You've got to pick your kids up at 3. Put those things in the day first and in the week first. So fill those in, because those are non-negotiable things that are already scheduled. Then prioritize your top things that you want to get done for the week. And if you have a super long list, really look at it and think about what's priority, what's not, and then put those things in next. So those get the next spaces. Make sure to add in your self-care, your exercise. You know, if you have a date night planned with your partner, add that in. Whatever it is that's priority for you and that needs to happen, that goes in next. Okay, so let's go through a few tools that can help you in getting your schedule laid out. So we already talked about the order to put things in, what's scheduled. Next comes the things that are a priority for you, and then make sure to include your self-care, your exercise, whatever it is that's a priority for you. If it's a date with your kids, a date with your partner, whatever it is that needs to make it on that list, make sure to go ahead and put some of those things in. So one thing that I highly recommend is, as you're thinking through this, ask yourself some questions. Ask what's essential. You know, obviously, like if you have meetings scheduled, if you have to pick up your kids, you've got to make dinner, like those things need to happen, right? So maybe you don't have to make dinner and you can pick up takeout. So that's, you know, just consider those things. So what's essential? What do I absolutely have to do this week? What's necessary to keep me moving forward in my goals? And then also, I want you to ask yourself, what fills me up and makes me happy? And make sure that you have some of those things sprinkled throughout your week. That's part, maybe part of your self-care, maybe it's part of your exercise, maybe it's part of like date with your kids or a date with your partner, or maybe it's journaling and you just need some more of that personal time. Maybe it's taking a bath, that all falls under self-care as well. But definitely make sure to include something, even if it's a couple minutes here and there, of things that make you happy. Is it laughing? Is it watching a good movie? Is it your favorite show? Whatever it is, add that in and make a list of what makes you happy for the week, if that's helpful for you. Some other tools that can help are, so you can look at your list and you can say, is there anything that'll take me less than 5 minutes that I can just kind of put in a chunk of time where I can get these things done in less than 5 minutes? And anything that fits in that, go ahead and take off your list and put in that category, and actually schedule in a time for you to do those little things. Like, I need to send an email to this person, or I need to look this thing up. It'll only take a few minutes. Or let's see, what else takes less than 5 minutes? Like if you have a quick organization or quick cleaning thing that only takes a few minutes, you can go ahead and do those things and kind of what they call batching. You can batch them together and do them all at once. And you could put them earlier in the week if that helps you to get those things off your list. If mentally you feel better when you don't have as much on your list, then that's a great thing to do. And then those things are just off your list. Or maybe you do it over the weekend, or, whatever it is, schedule in some time to get all those little things done that kind of suck up our time. One of the biggest time wasters is moving back and forth between tasks. We take a lot of time to transition in and transition out of a task. So we want to keep that in mind as you make your schedule. So this same idea of batching, like maybe you schedule in a time to check your emails versus checking an email, coming back to what you're doing, checking an email, coming back to what you're doing. That can be a huge time suck, going back and forth. So if you say, I check my emails at 8 a.m., again at 11, and at 3, depending on how often you need to check your emails. Maybe you just check them once a day. You do it and it's done. So putting in that time to do that. Same thing with texting or with social media. If it's something that you need to do, or that fills you up and brings you some sort of joy, then go ahead and schedule in a time for it. Like, those things that suck our time are really important to schedule in, because they will take time from all these other things that you're meant to be doing otherwise, and create a lot of extra transitions in your life, which takes time and also is really draining. So batching is a really helpful thing. Just kind of categorize the things that are similar and actually schedule that time in. Another way that people do things is time blocking. So you can block off a certain amount of time for meal prep. You can block off a certain amount of time for self-care, block off time, and then you kind of go through your day in these time blocks. And that can be really helpful for people too, to just stay focused and stay on task. With that same idea in mind, you can take work break intervals. So maybe you use a timer and you set your timer for an hour or for 20 minutes, and you sit down and you work really hard for that 20-30 minutes, and then you stand up and you take a break. You walk away from your desk. Maybe you do something else on your list that needs to be done, but basically you're just having really focused time during that work interval, and then you take your break. And that's a really nice way to do it too, because I think a lot of us, especially if you work on a computer, but definitely in other areas too, we just start getting into like this go mode, and we never clear our brain. And when your brain isn't clear, you're going to be so much less productive and efficient. So taking these breaks and coming back to it is really beneficial for a lot of people. Let's see, what haven't I talked about yet? So sticking to your schedule is really an important thing. So this is important for a lot of reasons, and it doesn't mean like every single thing is going to take exactly the amount of time that you made it take. But for emails, for example, if you give yourself 45 minutes, answer your priority emails first and then move on to the other things. And that way, when you get to say you have 30 minutes scheduled for your emails in the morning, so you get to that 30 minutes, you can walk away. You can finish the email you're working on right then, or finish what you're reading, whatever it is. And then you can step away and move on to the next thing, where like if you save your priority ones for last, you're going to be like, oh, I need to do that. I didn't get to that yet, so I'm going to do that before I go. And then it kind of throws you off, the next thing gets behind and the next thing gets behind. So as much as you can stick to your schedule, that can be really helpful. And obviously as you get into these, using these techniques and these strategies, and get your system down, you're going to know more how much each thing takes, and you're going to be able to plan in a little bit better. My schedule used to be just all over the place. Like once upon a time, I was not really into my routines, and I just kind of wake up and I'd hit the ground running. I didn't take time for myself, which that really helps with your energy, but also with your time. If you take that time for yourself, you're going to be more productive and efficient, and it's going to help create more time in your day and give you more energy during your day, where you just don't burn out and feel so exhausted by the time you're done. And then my other non-system was I would have a to-do list, and I would just try to get as many things done on that to-do list as possible. And, I'm all about lists. They help keep me functioning and running. I really like having things written down where I can visually see what needs to happen. But that became really stressful for me because I always thought I needed to be doing more. And that was so stressful for me, and it drained my energy so much that I just really, thinking back, I see how it wasn't serving me at all, really. So just keeping that in mind as you go, if that's the way you function, having these systems set up will allow you to feel good while you're getting their things done, instead of just rushing through your day trying to get to the next thing and check as much off your list as possible. It also gives you goals for your day so that you can feel successful when you get some of those. Every day you're not going to complete everything you put in your schedule, but making it reasonable and achievable as much as you can, and then just working with it and continuing to modify and tweak it. And when things don't go the way that you want, just have grace and compassion with yourself, because things are going to go the way we don't want. There is no such thing as perfection. It just doesn't exist. Like, perfection is not something we can ever achieve. So if you're setting yourself up to always be perfect, I mean, that in itself is such an energy drain, that you feel like you need to do something perfectly. Because perfection doesn't exist, you're setting yourself up for failure. So that's probably a whole nother conversation, but that was something I really struggled with too. I needed to get things just right. And it took so much of my time and energy, and just realizing that was not ever something I was going to be able to achieve, because it's not a thing, nothing is perfect. And just doing the best I can and getting through as much as possible was really helpful. It was a really helpful mindset shift for me. Next, let's talk a little bit about trusting your intuition and your gut instincts. So this can be really helpful in decreasing your stress, because you're gonna feel so much more clear when you learn to trust yourself. And so that doesn't mean that any thought that you have, you follow it. It means that you learn how to really check in. And I can link that episode as well. There's an episode on an exercise you can do and on why it's so important to trust yourself. And I'll link that podcast episode below this video. But basically, when you learn how to check in and know what you need and know what you want, you start to gain awareness of when your body's saying yes and when your body's saying no. And checking in with your body to know, we get such strong signals when we just are able to learn to listen to them and to hear what really our gut reaction is. So going with your gut is so important. And when you ask a question and you learn to interpret the messages your body's sending, and you know that it's something that feels like it's in alignment or something that's not, it's going to cut down on your stress around that decision. So you're just going to feel clearer. You're going to know where you're headed, what you want, and what you need to do moving forward. And we spend so much time in indecision, and it really is something that holds us back in so many areas of our life. Definitely take the time to check in. We just waste a lot of time and even more energy thinking about what we need to do, and also doing things that aren't in alignment with our goals. And so really that time just ends up being wasted, where if we are able to check in, figure out what we want, gain some clarity, and then move forward. And it can be a quick check-in. You can just close your eyes, or even not close your eyes, and just say, do I really want this? Is this something that feels like it's in alignment for me? And your body may feel either an expansive or contractive quality to that, but listening to that inner wisdom and getting clear on what you want and what the next steps you need to take are can really save a lot of time and really, really decrease stress overall in your life. Along those same lines, living in alignment with who you are, what you believe, and really figuring out how to be true to yourself can be huge. So really help you to save your energy more than anything. And I think time too, because it's that same piece around checking in. Choose what lifts you up, what brings you joy, what do you gravitate to, what do you not feel like you want to move towards. Just acknowledging those things and living for yourself, not living for someone else. So these are things that I'm just saying, but I know through my own experience and through my clients' experiences, it is a journey to unfold some of these things. Perfectionism is a journey to unfold. It's not something you just say, oh, I realize perfectionism being perfect doesn't exist, so I'm just not going to do that. It's a journey, and I realize that, and I realize how big that can be. And then I also encourage people and really encourage you just to take little steps towards those goals that you want. So, if people pleasing is a big thing for you and you're always thinking about other people's experiences, acknowledging that I really only have control over my own experiences. I don't have control over their reactions to this experience. So if I live true to myself, and it's not being inconsiderate of other people, it's just living true to who you are. And if you like it, most likely someone else is, there'll be someone else who enjoys it too. And if they don't, that's okay. That is okay. So not doing things for other people, having those clear boundaries with what you're willing to do, and that all comes back to that clarity piece. So all of these things really feed into each other as well. And when you start working on one thing, you will see benefits in these other areas too. Let go of what you think you should be doing and embrace who you actually are. So Brene Brown says something to that quality, to that extent, but letting go of the shoulds. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. We have these things in our mind, all these preconceived notions. So many of us do. And I know I did, about who we should be, what we should be doing, how we should feel about something. And, one tool that was really helpful for me is just reframing that. Instead of should, it can be a could. So anytime you think I should be da-da-da, you'd be like, well, I could be doing that, but I actually don't feel like that right now. So could opens up that possibility to make a different choice, because it's a could, it's not a should. And then you don't feel like you're supposed to be doing it. You feel like it's an option. And it is an option. We have choices in everything that we do. And so we make choices around everything that we do, and we can create our experience to some extent by remembering that, and by framing things, using our mind to frame things in that way. And it really helps to save and helps you conserve your energy for things that are more important. When you're feeling content and when you're feeling like you're living in alignment, other people are going to feel that too. So you're actually going to make their experience better by you focusing on yourself. I'm sure you've heard something to the extent of you can't give from an empty cup. So you really have to fill yourself up and take care of yourself before you can give to other people. Again, thinking about what's essential, what fills you up, what makes you happy, what feels like it's in alignment for you. And then we talked a little bit about relationships and boundaries, but when you say yes, let it be a hell yes. When you say no, everything that's not a hell yes basically could be a no. So you'll save a lot of energy not committing to things that you don't actually want to do. And there might be things that even if you don't want to do them, there's still a motivation or there's something that's driving you to still do it. And that's okay. You know, it doesn't always have to be, it doesn't have to be a fun thing to want to do it. There might be another reason that you're doing it. But as long as you have a clear reason and a good reason for doing that thing, then you can kind of work through the other stuff. You know, like we all commit to things that we don't want to do at some point, but is it something that's essential or that's necessary or that you really feel called to do because it's going to help this other person, you know? And that's okay as long as you have clear boundaries around it. I'm willing to do this because, and then fill in the blank. Don't just say yes because someone's asked you to do something, because there's so many times that I think we do that, especially if we tend to be in that, you know, identify with people pleasing and just wanting to make somebody else happy or not knowing how to say no. It can be uncomfortable to say no, but there are ways to just say that doesn't really fit in, that's not something that I'm going to be able to do this week. And you can just say no. You don't have to explain yourself, but I'm sorry, but I can't squeeze that in this week, you know. Some other time or not, you know, depending on what works for you. The last thing I want to talk about, I'm so passionate about this, is honoring your natural rhythms. So what I mean by that are we have two natural rhythms that I'm going to talk about. One is the circadian rhythm, which is our 24-hour rhythm. The other one is our infradian rhythm, which is your menstrual cycle, your monthly cycle. So honoring both is really amazing because we're working in sync with our body and we're harmonizing our schedule to what's happening in nature. So your circadian rhythm would be supported by getting up with, you know, earlier, having the morning light on your eyes. You can walk outside and actually let the light into your eyes. And not necessarily waking up earlier, but waking up in the morning and going to bed at night, right? So before there was electricity, people would just be awake during the daylight, and when it got dark, it was time to go to bed. Now I live in the Northwest. I'm not going to go to bed at 5 o'clock in the winter, but I can do things to kind of support that and to work with my rhythm versus working against it. I know some of you are probably thinking I'm a night owl and that's not going to work for me, and that's fine if that's the way that your body is working, but just be aware that we do have these rhythms, and when we work with them versus on a completely different schedule, things will flow more easily. So in the evening, it's great to get the light of the sunset on your eyes or the sun kind of going down, let your body know I'm kind of winding down. And then those routines, setting up routines is huge. So when you have a morning routine and evening routine, your body starts to know what to anticipate and what to expect. And that's a really powerful thing when you're trying to conserve time and energy, both. Because you cut down on a lot of the time that you would spend making decisions. You know what to anticipate, your body knows what to anticipate, and you can just kind of flow a little bit more effortlessly, where if you're having to every day rework that and figure out a new system, that's going to take a lot of time and a lot of your energy. So that's the circadian rhythm. The infradian rhythm, the menstrual cycle, as cycling women, we are changing throughout the month. And, you know, whether your cycle's 28 days, 25 days, 20, 30 days, whatever it is, you're going through these shifts throughout the month. And we have times of the month where we can do certain things better, with less effort, they flow better, that kind of thing. So, for example, the menstrual phase is a really great time to rest and renew. So when you're actually bleeding, it's a really good time to allow your body to have that break. And a lot can come from that as far as being productive and being efficient, because you come into the next phase renewed. So for the first 1 to 3 days, as much as you can, don't schedule any extra things on your schedule. That's just one idea, you know, that maybe you have to go to work that day, but don't set up social things. Don't take on extra projects. Don't try to clean the house if you don't have to, you know, things like that, that you can maybe just let go for a few days and then pick back up when you're in your planning, organizing, playful phase, you know, as we round from the menstrual phase, which correlates to winter, into the spring phase, or the follicular phase, which corresponds with spring. So that new growth, there's new energy. That's actually the beginning of the cycle. And then it continues. So you go into ovulation. That's a great time for connecting, for socializing. There's certain foods and exercise, and different activities and tasks and gifts that we have during each phase. So because we are so dynamic, if we try to just function on that 24-hour cycle, you know, we expect ourselves to be able to perform at a certain level and get the same number of things done each day. And that's against our natural rhythm when we're trying to just taskmaster all the time, or we're trying to be social all the time, or, you know, if you're resting all the time. Like, we have times where where our bodies naturally are inclined to plan and organize, play, be curious, explore, and then it moves into around ovulation. You move into a time for socializing, connecting. It's less task oriented and more that social piece and connecting and building relationships and that kind of thing. And that comes more naturally during that time. From there, you go into the luteal phase. So that corresponds with the fall. A lot of stuff comes up for a lot of us women during that time. So acknowledging that can be really productive and really help you move forward. But it's also a really great time for deep work. So diving into anything that you really need to get into. If you have some writing to do, if you have some projects, it's a great time to go through a closet and get things, shed whatever it is that's not serving you, or start to acknowledge it. And then in the menstrual phase, you can reflect and kind of shed a little bit more as well. So honoring those rhythms can be really powerful and can have a huge impact on your energy and on your time, I would say. You know, I would really argue that if you give yourself that time to rest during your menstrual phase, even if it's just a day, or even if it's just like not scheduling that extra thing for those first 2 days of your period, or whatever it is, and just being mindful of that, because sometimes it's just the mindfulness and the awareness. It can make a big difference coming into the follicular phase in your new energy cycle and how much you get done. If you don't honor that, you might be dragging through the whole month. You know, it's the same idea as just trying to plow through your day versus taking some breaks in between to clear your head and kind of regroup, and then you get back into what you were doing and you do it that much better, and you probably enjoy it a lot more too. You will enjoy it a lot more if you do it that way. And I mean, I speak from experience that I struggled so much with with this kind of thing. I struggled with like just allowing myself to be. It was so hard for me to just be still. And once I started practicing it and saw the amazing benefits that it brought me, I was able to kind of let go and shift my mindset a little bit around it. So really good stuff. And The honoring your different phases of your menstrual cycle will also, that whole process helps you tune in and be more aware so you can be more clear moving forward. It's just another tool for gaining clarity and knowing what you want and need, which is really powerful as you're trying to create more time and manage your time and energy better. So yeah, I think that's a good amount of things to think about for this topic of managing your time and energy. It's really useful to put some time into, schedule some time in for planning and organizing. Give yourself that when your brain is at a place where it can think like that. I actually do it for the month, and then I come back and do it every week, and then I tweak it daily if I need to. And it sounds like a lot of time to put towards that, but it'll create so much more time in your schedule. You can build in time where you need to, if you need to wake up a little bit earlier to get that self-care in, if you need to do those work break intervals, and you can create time by just being more focused and more productive, more efficient with the other tasks that you're doing. It can allow you to expand on what you are able to include. Make sure you have self-care time, make sure you have exercise time, make sure you have time to get your meals ready, make sure you have time for your kids and your partner and the important people in your life. And so it's been a really beneficial process for me. And I think that just being aware that there are some things that you can do. Sometimes I know a lot of us feel just helpless and like there's not anything we can do to change this. Like, our time is our time. This is just what we have. I feel drained. I'm exhausted because I don't have any time. And I think that I want to encourage and say that I was also there once, and I really have benefited from some of these practices, and it has created where I have enough time in my day. It doesn't mean I get everything done I want to, but it is really helpful. And this is something I work with my clients on. So if you're interested, I offer a free consultation, just like a mini coaching session where we can figure out a plan for you. I get to hear your story, what your challenges are, what you're struggling with, what you want for your life. And then we can kind of build out a plan moving forward to help you get a handle on your food sensitivities, heal your digestion, find relief from those uncomfortable symptoms that you're dealing with all the time, help to manage your energy and stress and times in a way that you feel like you're enjoying the things that you're doing in your life more, versus just kind of going through the motions and not getting to enjoy them as much. So I love helping people through that process. I also do the more in-depth work around the menstrual cycle and establishing routines and things like that, helping you figure out what foods serve you, because it's hard to be efficient if your body is not really content or feeling taken care of. So we work with all of those things. And it's really awesome to see where people start and where they end just by making these little shifts. Like, it can be so transformative. Send me a message at leavong.com/contacts, and I'd love to set something up. Okay, thanks so much for being here. We'll see you next week.